Joining us now is retired Army Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, former Chief of Staff to Secretary of State Colin Powell. Colonel Wilkerson, thank you for making time to come on the show with us tonight. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me, Rachel. I must say that as you were reading off the list, long list of people going to jail from the Bush administration, I had some trepidation that you were going to get to my name.
Well, as far as we know, that's not yet in the cards. Give us a heads up and an exclusive, and if it is going to happen, though.
Surely.
All right, I have to ask you, with levying this kind of criticism against the former vice president, when you pick up the phone now, do you worry that Dick Cheney is going to reach through it and grab you by the neck or something? No,
but I absolutely do worry that the IRS might check my tax accounts a lot more closely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are taking on a guy who notoriously chews people up and spits them out in bureaucratic fights and in political fights. But I have to ask you why you feel like it's important to do that right now. He's out of power. He's still doing interviews, making comments on current policy. Why go after him now?
I'm really concerned about what I started to begin to be concerned about when John McCain and Sarah Palin were campaigning. I saw the fringe of the McCain rallies, and I didn't like what I saw. It frightened me. And I think people like Rush Limbaugh and now Dick Cheney, former vice president, as you've pointed out and as everyone knows, are doing some of that fear-mongering too. This is not good. There are some crazy people in this country. There are Unabombers. There are Lee Harvey Oswalds. There are Sirhans. And these are the kind of people that listen to this kind of fear-mongering, and it's dangerous, and so someone's got to start talking out about it.
You're also making some pretty serious allegations related to the war on terror in Guantanamo. You're alleging that keeping innocent people in prison essentially became a matter of policy. How do you know that people like Rumsfeld and Cheney knew that the people at Guantanamo weren't really vetted, that there was a likelihood that a lot of them were innocent when they were calling them the worst of the worst?
We knew that at the State Department, so I find it extremely difficult to believe that the people who were in charge, although I have said that they were incompetent, I don't think their incompetence reached the degree that they didn't know what we knew in terms of what was happening at Guantanamo. Secretary Powell and Deputy Secretary Armitage began immediately when people hit the camps in Guantanamo, trying to deal with some of the ones that we knew we could probably deal with, like UK citizens, that is to say, British citizens, whom Jack Straw, then the foreign minister for the United Kingdom, wanted to be returned. I mean, who would think that the United Kingdom couldn't incarcerate, couldn't interrogate, couldn't control, couldn't deal with people like this who were their citizens, and yet we couldn't even repatriate British citizens.
You also say that Cheney and Rumsfeld knew that a 13-year-old boy and a man over the age of 90 were among the people who we had in prison. Have they ever admitted to that?
As far as I know, it became public knowledge, and they were eventually released, but no one's ever admitted any culpability for it, nor has anyone been held accountable for it.
Let me ask you about Mosaic, an intelligence philosophy that you described as being based on the idea that anyone caught near a battle zone must know something. So therefore, we shouldn't let anybody go, even if they're innocent, just based on where they were from when we picked them up. Where did this idea come from? Was it ever officially approved, or was it just an ad hoc developed thing?
I don't know if it was officially approved or not. I know it was used, and I know it was a philosophy behind some of the interrogation. For example, it was a philosophy behind some of the interrogation that occurred in Bagram in Afghanistan, and behind some of the interrogation at Abu Ghraib in Iraq. And it's really fairly rational. If you really don't have good intelligence, good actionable intelligence, and you really don't have good language capability and interrogation capability, then about the best you can do is vacuum up all that you can and get all the information you can and try to piece together from that information solid information about who might be a terrorist, who might be a Taliban, who might be an insurgent, and so forth. So it makes sense from a I don't know and I need to know basis, but it was so haphazardly run and so not coordinated, so uncoordinated, that I think in Abu Ghraib, for example, we probably had somewhere around 25,000 people incarcerated, and I dare say maybe 500 of them knew anything that was worthwhile.
And it meant that the policy of the U.S. government towards detentions was such that being innocent was no claim on actually getting out of prison. That's sort of hard to defend.
Absolutely.
Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, former Chief of Staff to Secretary of State Colin Powell, it's always really great to have you on the show. Thank you for taking time tonight.
Thank you for having me.